Ladies and gentlemen, it's 3 o'clock here in the Netherlands. Welcome. I don't know how everybody's skin is, but I have goosebumps. Today is a fantastic meeting. Let's talk dermatology, let's talk aesthetics, and most important, let's try to do business all together. Welcome to EPIC. 5th of October, 3 p.m. Central European Time, Season 2, Episode 6 of the EPIC Online Technology Meetings. Our topic for discussion is booming, photonics for dermatology and aesthetic applications. The use of light is well established in dermatology and plastic surgery. Think about the use of lasers for removal of tattoos, hair, or wrinkles. But light is also used in treatment of acne, psoriasis, eczema, and even the removal of varicose veins. During our meeting, we'll hear from industry players like Lumix, Cobalt, or Antoptica Eagle Yard about the challenges of delivering safe devices at the right wavelength, exactly the right power, and at the right position. So what are the challenges? Accuracy, beam shaping, safety, lifetime, multi-wavelength solutions, heat management, high dynamic range. This is when EPIC meetings are truly epic. The full value chain from optics to laser manufacturers, talking with end users in the same room. We hope to hear from the leading medical companies including Siemens, Johnson & Johnson, Sanofi, Pfizer, GE Healthcare, Philips, or Abbott. So you can see there is plenty to discuss on Monday, October 5th at 3 p.m. Central European Time. Sign up to participate in the Zoom room or follow us live at the EPIC YouTube channel. Hair removal seems to be easy, but how do you put it back on? Thank you very much, and let's start this epic afternoon. I'm so happy with these online technology meetings, Elena. We're making such a big difference for this industry, and I keep receiving all this amazing feedback from all of you. I think many of you know that earlier last month, we managed to reach a huge milestone for EPIC. 600 companies are now members of the association. That means that on almost every technology, in almost every application, in almost every part of the supply chain of photonics, we have the right companies to build things together, and that's what it's all about. And you also know that this is the second season of the EPIC Online Technology Meetings. We started back in April when the world is starting to fall apart. Little by little, I'm positive we'll go soon back to the beautiful normal. But until then, we continue with the online experience if it goes live. And today is 5th of October, dermatology and aesthetics. But keep in mind that these are the agenda for the upcoming meetings. And we also want to announce more meetings in the next days. So please keep your eyes tuned for this fantastic opportunity to find interaction with different parts of the supply chain, focusing, of course, on end users. And I'm part of this amazing team of EPIC. Many of you know all these people, half of them with PhDs, looking to understand the technology of all the members and scout the different users. What we do for EPIC is organize meetings, we provide networks. So you want to get in touch with anybody, just let us know. We find investment. If you're looking for raise capital, we have a network of investors, and it's all a membership benefit. We also have the biggest website to find a job in photonics, the biggest website in the world to find a job in photonics, www.jobsinphotonics.com. And we also, many of you know this, because you're an EPIC member, you have access to a long list of market reports. All you have to do is go to the website, extranet. There is there 1,700 market data view graphs for you to use them. But now we go to the topic today. We go to the beautiful topic of dermatology and aesthetic applications. First of all, I would like to thank the sponsors today. Thank you very much for making this team possible. We have today 5 sponsors. Very quickly, River D in the Netherlands, in the beautiful city of Rotterdam, is a company specialized in imaging technologies based on Raman to actually make sure they can do the right imaging of the skin for ultra-fast diagnostics. Jenoptik, who doesn't know Jenoptik? When it comes to every market, Jenoptik makes instruments and modules, but in this particular market, Jenoptik is very well known for making laser diode-based solutions, OEM solutions for any kind of dermatology and aesthetic need. OPTOMAN all the way from beautiful Lithuania. You're looking for IBS coatings. You need optics that are very robust, very long lifetime and they operate very well with ultra-fast lasers. OPTOMAN are the people for you to talk to. Talk to OPTOMAN. IRISIOME, I love these people. When it comes to ultra-fast and beam tuning and pulse tuning of the laser for dermatology solutions, you have to talk to them. They are the key system integrator of OEM solutions, serving directly the clinicians. IRISIOME is a key company in the EPIC network, and OFS, a specialty fiber from the specialty very low volume all the way to telecoms fiber, but today they are very specialized in making the right fiber for laser-based solution in dermatology and aesthetics. A key company also to have in EPIC. Thank you very much, as 5 of you, for sponsoring this particular meeting. Today we have a fantastic agenda with medical doctors, with end users, trying to target all the different solutions, try to find connections. We're going to hear a little bit about every part of the supply chain from iTheraMedical all the way to Astrum. And we're going to start, of course, with a medical doctor and also the CEO of Laserplast. It's going to be a huge meeting. And also would like to remind everyone that you have to look really nice. Just make sure you look very good with your hair and all, because we are live. We are live in YouTube. So I'm going to say hello now to the YouTubers in the world. Hello, YouTubers, all of you. If you have any questions, please feel free to post in the chat. But also, you want to get in touch with any of the participants, all you have to do is send me an email, jose.pozo@epic-assoc.com, and I will be the happiest boy in the class by just introducing you to any participant that you want to connect to. This is also valid to the people in the Zoom room. You had the internal chat. Use it wisely to get in touch with each other. But if after the meeting you felt that you wanted to talk further with any of the companies, all you have to do is send me an email, jose.pozo@epic-assoc.com, and I will be more than happy to make such introduction. And I'm even happier to introduce the EPIC technology expert on medical technologies and my very good friend, Dr. Elena Beletkaya, who is going to be co-chairing the meeting with me. Elena, how are you? How is life today in Amsterdam?
Hi, Jose. I think it's equally raining in here as in Noordwijk, but it doesn't matter because it's shining here inside of my room or inside of me. I'm very excited about this meeting and about the whole supply chain that we brought here together. And yeah, I'm very happy to start. I'm very excited to start. On top of that, we are starting with a medical doctor, Matteo Tretti, who is not just a medical doctor, but he's a certified plastic surgeon, and he has vast experience with lasers. He started working with lasers technologies already in 1996. So I'm very excited to hear what he can tell us from his experience and what challenges he can give the supply chain today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the very kind invitation. It's my first time in this fantastic group of people. So I will start with my talk. And this is the talk. Okay, the title was very interesting to me because it's what can you do for them and what can they do for you? I really do not know what I can do for you, but I exactly know what you can do for me. So at the beginning, I will explain to you what I'm doing with the laser technologies, and then I will give you a couple of requests, a couple of challenge that can help me a lot in the near future to obtain better outcomes. I'm consultant of different companies, and with them and for them, I developed a series of devices as well as some protocols on how to properly use some devices, for example, for tattoo removal or scar procedure. One of the most important thing I use are vascular lasers. This is a PDR procedure on a very small port wine stain on the neck of this beautiful girl. We use a very large spot size to coagulate the vessel in a very thin skin area like that one of the neck. Or we can use another technology that is not a laser, as you know, is a multiple wavelength technology to treat this condition called rosacea. This condition is particularly serious for the patient because they become red every time they, speak with the other sex, when they have a job interview, when they go to social life. And so modifying the aspect of the skin of this patient can really make a difference in the everyday life. Or we can take care of older ladies. These ladies present, and we are sure, a great ptosis of the lower 2/3 of the face and the neck, but she didn't want any surgical approach nor an aggressive laser procedure. She came to my office asking only to cancel the blemishes she presented on her face. And so we decided to do an IPL photorejuvenation. And after full session at 4 weeks interval, and this is the 6 month follow-up, we didn't obtain any tightening effect. Probably she deserves a facelift or an HIFU procedure, or at least a microneedling radiofrequency. But the results on the general appearance of the face was not so bad, and the patient, that is very important, was very happy. Or in this patient who, again, didn't want a surgical approach to her face, but wanted to try to fix the ptosis of the jawline, of the skin along the jawline. So what we did was, again, full sessions of IPL to improve the dyspigmentation around her face. And we did an hybrid microneedling RF. Hybrid means RF plus galvanic energy at the end, the RF energy. The second part was to try to elevate the jawline skin over there, to tighten the skin over there, and the result, I think, was not so bad. Or in a younger patient, but in the most severe case, look how many wrinkles this patient presented on her face. Is a very thin skin due probably to the wrong UV exposure the patient had in the past for many years. So on her, we did an HIFU, so ultrasounds, microfocus ultrasounds, to try again to fix the problem of the ptosis of the lower 1/3 of the face, plus hybrid microneedling RF to again improve that situation. And finally, we did an IPL, again, photorejuvenation to affect the grand zone using as targets the melanin that you can appreciate on the left part of the slide. Or another very common indication we have is tattoo removal. We are calculating that in Italy, we have more than 3 million patients that want to remove or to change their tattoos. Look at this case after 3 procedures, after 6 procedures, and 2 years later. Look, unfortunately, we had some very small dot scar. Look at the white dot you can see there, but the final results was not so bad. Or laser can be used for medical indication and not for aesthetic indication. This is a not common situation here in Europe. It's much more common in Latin America or in Asia. It's a nota nevi. So we use a picosecond 1064 full beam on the nevus and the Q-switch ruby on the hyperpig. You can see on more on the right cheek. To improve the quality of the skin, we also did a fractional pico, again at 1064 nanometers with very low energy to have LIOBs produced inside the dermis, and so have also new collagen production. But I want to conclude my overview on indication speaking about one of my passion. One of my passion is to treat severe scars. We do not have, and we are lucky for that, we do not have many soldiers coming from war zones as US guys have, but we have a lot of domestic accidents with severe burns. And our anesthesiologists are extremely skillful to save their life. But unfortunately, if they're still alive, they have terrible scars. So in a case like this right hand, we cannot put any skin graft over there to avoid any compromission of the extended tendons. So we did a procedure with the ultrapulse CO2, fenestrating the scar and stimulating the activation of heat shock proteins. And we combine these procedures with some drugs like triamcinolone, TSE, 5-FU, and botulinum toxin type A, and look at the results we were able to obtain. Or in this last case I want to present to you is a very famous guy here in Italy. A crazy girl threw on his face some sulfuric acid because she was jealous. And she was treated by Matthias Donnellan in Boston with a PDL, and by myself with a fractional CO2 plus TAC and 5-FU and botulinum toxin type A. So we can do a lot for these patients, and we have not to restore only the function. I'm speaking about range of motion, but we have to restore or try to restore their appearance to give them a normal social life. So connecting to this last picture, and because recently, last September, this paper was published by Andrea Isler-Fischer, who is a Swiss lady who is working in Sydney, in the Burn Center in Sydney. My first challenge for you is this one. We know now that to obtain better results on scar improvement, we need to reach from 50 to 75% of the thickness of a scar. But we also know that in a huge scar, imagine, for example, a scar on the burn of a full thorax of a patient, we have a scar with extremely different thickness. So my idea, my challenge, the challenge I want to give you is, why not to have something, maybe ultrasounds, able to calculate the thickness of the scar connected to a laptop, to a computer, that can give automatically to the device the amount of energy the device has to administer to the scan. So moving the scanner, moving the handpiece on the scan, we can have an automatic exact amount of energy, and probably this can save that patient so many sessions and give us better results in a, again, shorter amount of sessions. And my second challenge is, okay, this is a dream. This is not a challenge, is a real dream. Which is my most important enemy? My most important enemy, despite I'm working with the skin, is the skin. So the skin is a barrier. And so when I want to go after the epithelium, so I want to go deeper of the epithelium, I have always the epithelium over there. So my idea, or, you know, I do not know nothing about engineer. I do not know if this is possible, but the idea is to have a series of needles and this, with some optic fibers. So the idea is, why not to insert the optic fibers inside the needle, so we can deciding the penetration of the needle, and so we can, for example, arriving in the mid-dermis, in the superficial dermis, at the end of the dermis, and then having only one single source, energy source, being able to emit different wavelength. The advantage of this is to work extremely close to the defect we have to destroy or to coagulate. Imagine, for example, a port wine stain. We can enter inside the vascular plexus, and then we can emit a minimal amount of energy because we are close to the defect and we have not to pass through the epithelium barrier. And so I do not know if this is possible, but imagine one single device, different needles, different wavelength, we can treat a lot of indications. So they asked me to keep in 6 minutes, and so I show you what I'm doing now and what I ask you to give me in the near future.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for your presentation. I mean, there are really no words to express enough how impressive it is what you are doing, and what actually laser technology, for that matter, can do. So I hope that we can also solve some of your challenges, or at least approach them. I want to remind everybody that it's interactive session, so don't be shy, ask questions. We are more than happy to have a discussion here. You can raise your hand, or you can also type your question in the chat, and or you can just step in and ask it. But if there are no immediate questions from the audience right now, something that I would like to ask, because you already tackled this topic a little bit, it's combination of treatment, laser treatment for like tattoo removal of scars with some clinical data. So do you also do that? Like, do you check the skin for other conditions before you perform the treatment, or is it really needed? Or is it something which also would be on your list of challenges and wish lists?
Yeah, naturally, checking the skin is very important. Darker the skin, higher is the risk of adverse events like PIH, so the post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. The hydration can really modify, for example, the response of the skin to DRF. Dry skin respond better than wet skin and so on. So again, probably having a system or device or something that can give us some real response of that skin in that moment, means that day, can give us a real help. To be honest, I prefer, means I check the skin of the patients, but I'm more focused on their skin type before doing procedures and deciding which procedure to do.
Okay, perfect. In the meantime, we got a couple of questions. So Peter from Photosound, would you like to ask your questions? Don't forget to unmute yourself beforehand.
Yes, one question I have is how visible, would be the scar depth in the ultrasound? I mean, is that would be something that you could very easily determine, or that could be determined automatically?
It's the problem is I started to do laser procedure on scars 10 years ago. So now I can really understand the thickness, but I'm speaking to spread this technology and this approach all over the world. And so becoming an expert is not so easy. So the idea is, if we can have a probe calculating the thickness, and then we have a graph knowing, relating the penetration to the amount of energy applied, we can, more or less, but in a more precise way, knowing where we are doing, where we are going, and that could be a real help. I do not know if doing this with a scanner or shot by shot, I do not know, but that can really help us. In the same anatomical region, because of the time of the healing, you can have, look at me, you can have a scar thick 3 centimeters, and 2 centimeters far, you can have a very thin areas. So we have to change settings every time looking at the scar. But if we can have, again, a probe or a system saying, oh, the thickness here is 2.7 millimeters. So if you want to reach 60% penetration, you need, for example, 100 millijoule. Okay, and then the system cannot adjust itself automatically to arrive exactly at that penetration.
Okay, perfect. Well, maybe we will find some more answers to this question or this challenge through the meeting. And we also have a few more questions. Jan from Caleste, would you like to ask your question? If you unmute yourself before talking, that also would help us to hear you.
Okay, yeah, good. Thank you
Perfect.
very much. Sorry. My question was, what can be approximately the diameter of such a needle? Certainly, if you want to...
As smaller as possible. I understand. So someone tried to tell me that, the optic fibers have a limitation about the diameter, that probably the steel is not a perfect thing. I do not know, but this is a dream. But it's like to arrive as closer as possible to the defect I want to destroy. Some companies I heard try to combine different wavelengths. Imagine, for example, doing a CO2 first, creating a channel, creating a hole inside the skin, immediately followed by a second wavelength affecting our target. But, with the CO2, you are creating charring, as you are, probably you are modifying tissue. I'm not so sure that the second wavelength can really affect the target we want to destroy. So the needle, I I think is the, you know, it's a very unique thing, because something can put in, because you can decide the penetration of that, knowing at which depth the lesion is. But my answer is as smaller as possible.
Okay.
Oh, we do have a few representatives from fiber optics in the room, so maybe during the meeting they will also update us on what is the smallest possible option here. And we also have a question from Marina from ISE Optics. If you would ask your question, don't forget to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. And it is a question related to the pain treatment for those patients that have been affected, like the person there. I don't know, look like being burnt by acid or anything like that. Apart from aesthetic side of these interventions, there is also a pain treatment side, and I wanted to know if this treatment also affect the nurse behavior, the pain feeling, and so on. Thank you.
Sure. Really, yes. Generally, February this year was published on the Red Journal the first international consensus on how to treat traumatic scars. And the two symptoms we are affecting first, proceeding with CO2 and vascular lasers, are pain and pruritus. So these are the two first symptoms we are treating during or after the laser procedure. You know, for example, a patient with a keloid usually present pruritus and spontaneous pain. If you do 1 to 2 sessions, these two symptoms can disappear. If you are speaking about the pain during the procedure, that is another. That is a big problem, okay? But we can really reduce the pain after the laser. Probably, and this is my idea, I'm not so sure, the scar can you know, affect the sensors, the nerves, and so relaxing the fibers of the scar around that, probably we are reducing the spontaneous pain there.
Okay, thank you. We won't let you go easily. We have more questions coming. There is a question from Gordon from GBF Strategy. Gordon, would you be so kind to ask your question? Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Hi, yes, thank you. It was a really interesting talk. We work with a lot of imaging companies in modalities other than ultrasound. I was one of the founders of an OCT company. We also work with confocalists. Have you looked at any other higher resolution imaging modalities to let you do things like measure vessel diameters and things like that when you're trying to tune your therapeutics?
We have a confocal microscopy in our office, but unfortunately the depth that the confocal microscopy can reach is not enough. For example, if we are speaking about scars,
Sure.
and also ICT, I do not think is a very good thing. I saw a couple of papers published by Jill Weibel from Miami using this technology. It's very interesting, more on modification on vessels after the procedure. So comparing the images before and after the procedure. That was only one idea. I do not know which technology can help me. So I think it's your job, but I need to something helping me to decide the exact penetration I want to reach. So which is the depth here is 2 centimeters. Okay, I want to reach 1.4. That's you know that's what I am asking to the companies.
So you're almost needing software that will take your imaging and tell you what to do with your lasers as a result.
Maybe suggesting. You know,
yeah, telling was obviously the wrong word, but you know what I mean.
No, that is absolutely correct. Means I want to keep my freedom to decide what to do, but suggesting you, okay, this is the right thing. You told us before, means because at the beginning you can choose, I want to reach 70%. And so, you know, I think it's an algorithm, and that is not, I think the most difficult thing here is to have a collimated laser and imaging system, because if you put that as in my slide, one close to another, you are calculating the thickness in one point and you are affecting the other point. So I'm not so sure, but that thing can really help me. Also on vessels, for example, choosing the pulse duration of the energy, considering the diameter of the vessels, can help us a lot. Because if we have a correlation between diameter and pulse duration, we can modify only pulse duration to be perfect for that vessel, for that lesion. That is another option.
That was really what I was wondering about in the question, because OCT would be perfect for that. Thank you.
Great. And now, Jose?
Yes, Jose. Wow, Matteo, that was fantastic. Dr. Matteo Tretti Clementoni. I really loved the presentation when you were telling us about the needles, and then Jan from Caleste really asked the key question, what is the typical size of the needles? And I think this still is on the air. I think we need to clarify this a bit better. So I'm going to go to my very good friend, Gerwin Puppels. He's the CEO of River D, and he's been working a lot with his company, a sister company. Maybe he's going to talk about that as well. I know you're going to give a presentation later, Gerwin, goedemiddag, but do you have something to comment on the needle size?
Goedemiddag, Jose. Yes. So River D is specialized in tissue analysis by means of Raman spectroscopy. And for one of these applications, we have developed a fiber optic needle technology that I think does exactly what you want. So basically, by Raman spectroscopy, you can determine what type of tissue is at the tip of the needle. And after that, so you can push it. Right now, we've made it such that you can push it about 10 millimeters into the tissue, but that's not a fundamental limitation. And it would take about seconds.
My question to you is, okay, this is to understand which kind of tissue is there, but at the opposite, can we emit energy through that fiber optic fiber?
Yes, because I don't know how much. I mean, we're not in the business of destroying tissue, but we're doing it.
That is my.
So there might be a sticky point there, literally, but. Yes, in principle, yes, because all we do is just use a piece of fused silica fiber optic. There's no filtering, no nothing on there. So basically any light can go through.
That's good.
We solve, I think, we maybe partially solve one of your demands, one of your challenges. The other one is going to be discussed a lot during the meeting, but you made my afternoon, the afternoon of Epic. It was an epic presentation. This is what it's all about, hearing from the user, and we did, and now we're going to hear from the rest trying to help you. You were fantastic, Matteo. Why don't we continue? Matteo, I'm going to introduce you to a lot of my friends today. The first one is Torsten Ledig from AMS Technologies. You know, they keep giving me marks. I have the mark of AMS Technologies here. Thank you very much for the mark, Torsten. How are we going to help Matteo and the rest of the end user? Thank you very much for joining today.
Hello, everybody. So just try to share my screen. Just a second.
We just have to go presentation mode.
Yeah.
You're an expert. I know that you can do this.
Sorry for that.
All the way from beautiful Munich, one of the capitals of photonics in Europe.
Here we are. Sorry for that.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah. Hello. Good afternoon to everybody in the meeting. So in my talk, I want to discuss a little bit on multi-wavelength Raman lasers, which are used in optoacoustic imaging for dermatologic applications. So in the first part of the talk, which I will give, I will talk a little bit about this laser and its specifications. And in a second talk, which is given by Katja Haedicke of iTheraMedical, she will then go into the details of the application. So just a few words on AMS Technologies. I think most of you know our company, founded in 1982. So we are for 38 years on the market, privately held, with about 100 employees and turnover of 30 million euro. In 2017, we acquired the company Alphalite Limited in the UK, which is specialized on diode pumped solid state lasers. I will go into the details later on. And the company has, as you can see here, 3 business lines: optics, the management, and power technologies. So here on this slide, I want to report on the so-called Tetra multi-wavelengths DPSS laser, which incorporates diode pumped frequency doubled solid state laser at 532 nanometer, which is then coupled into a special crystal which utilizes the Raman effect, and out of the 532 nanometer pump radiation, you generate further wavelengths at 555, 579, and 606 nanometer, which are the first, second, and third stokes of the Raman effect. These wavelengths perfectly fit to the absorption of components of the human blood. So Katja will tell you a bit more in detail later on. So the laser is built up in a special 2-box design. What you can see here on the right is the laser head, which emits these 4 wavelengths. The power supply and the pump diodes, they are incorporated in the second box. The pump is then fiber coupled and goes into the laser head via multi-mode fiber. And yeah, the 4 wavelengths are coming out of the aperture here, and there's also a possibility to fiber couple the laser. In our case, all these 4 wavelengths need to be separated for any application. This could be done either by dichroic mirrors. In our case, we do it pulse per pulse by an acousto-optical tunable filter. So just regarding the company, so the laser is the optics and the physics of the laser. All the design is done at Alphalite in the UK, and the mechanical and optical design is done by my colleagues at the AMS Poland office. So here I want to go a bit more into the details of the specification. As said, there are four wavelengths coming out of this laser as pulsed. Other wavelengths are available on request. So there are a few more Stokes wavelengths available. The repetition of the laser goes up to 2 kilohertz, which means that the pulses are coming out wavelengths per wavelengths. So per wavelengths, the repetition rate is then 500 hertz. The pulse energy is 20 microjoule per wavelengths at 606. It's a bit lower. So you can see on the pictures below the 4 wavelengths which are emitted out of the laser. Pulse width of the laser is about 5 nanosecond. The beam quality is very close to TM00, so it's very easy to couple the laser into a multi-mode or even in a single mode fiber. So as already mentioned, the wavelengths could be tuned per pulse. So it's possible. What we normally do with this laser is that we emit the wavelengths one after the other. So means in one pulse you start with 532 and the next one is 505 and so on. But the acousto-optical tunable filter is also programmable, that you can emit all wavelengths together or in a different row or whatever the customer wants to have. So yeah, I think that was mainly what I wanted to show you here regarding this multi-wavelengths Raman laser. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very, very much for this great presentation. And this is a combo. This is a combo. So we're going to get the other side. We're going to get Ithera to present, and then we're going to have the combined Q&A. I think that's okay. That's what we think we want to do. And Katja, I know Katja from Munich, when we organize the running events every year in Munich. This year we couldn't do it, so I missed you. It's great that you're joining today with one of the key system integrators for medical applications of lasers in Europe. Katja, welcome to EPIC. The floor and the attention of everyone goes to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jose. You can hear me, I guess. Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, so basically this is the second part of the talk, and I would like to show you what we are actually doing with the Raman laser. So first of all, I'm working as an application specialist for iTheraMedical. And what does iThera do? We are developing and marketing biomedical imaging systems for clinical and preclinical research based on the photoacoustic effect. So I will explain this in a second, but we have three different systems. On the left side, that's the MSOT Envision. MSOT stands for multispectral optoacoustic tomography, and this allows whole body mouse imaging. The second one in the middle is the MSOT Acuity, which has a handheld probe similar to ultrasound devices and allows optoacoustic imaging in the clinics, so also with patients. And then on the right side, this is the device where also the Raman laser is used for. It's the Irisome Explorer, and Irisome stands for raster scanning optoacoustic mesoscopy, and we can do high resolution skin imaging with this. So how does this work? On the left side, you can see how Irisome works, so raster scanning optoacoustic mesoscopy. So the optoacoustic effect basically means that laser light so the skin is illuminated with laser light. So laser light goes in, and then this leads to a short thermoelastic expansion of tissue, so mainly blood and hemoglobin, because they absorb this light, and then they generate ultrasound waves within the tissue, which are then detected by a detector, which is scanning in a raster over the field of view. So, and for this application, we are using the Raman laser. So previously we were using a laser, as you see on the image on the upper right, which only emitted at 532 nanometers. So here, hemoglobin and melanin was excited, but we couldn't really distinguish, let's say, blood from melanin. So the only thing, as you see in the image in the upper right, with the green and the red signals, the only thing we could distinguish was different ultrasound frequencies, which means that you can distinguish small and larger blood vessels in the skin. So this is a maximum intensity projection image of the skin, and it's labeled with the different layers of the skin. And then what we are doing now, as you see at the bottom, is we are using this Raman laser to further improve this imaging. So with the 4 wavelengths that this laser has now, we can actually do unmixing for melanin and oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. So we are not just able to get whatever absorbs the light, but now we are even able to distinguish melanin and then also oxy from deoxygenated hemoglobin. So this you can see on the image in the lower right. So this is a maximum intensity projection image of the skin. And on the top in green, you see the melanin layer. So if you go into the sun for a long time, this layer gets stronger. And below that, you see the blood vessels. And in red, the oxygenated blood, and in blue, deoxygenated blood. So this laser now allows us to really study oxygenation within the skin. And every time we image, we get a 3D image of the skin. And you can quantify several parameters like oxygenation, vessel diameter, blood volume, and so on. And just as an overview, we have many applications at the moment. So in preclinical, like mainly mouse research, as well as also clinical applications like psoriasis, scleroderma. and many others like eczema or even reactions to allergies or drugs on the skin. And I just want to, as the last slide, show one example, which is already published, that Irisome was able to identify disease biomarkers in psoriasis. So on the left side, you see an image of the skin from a psoriasis patient, and on the right side from a healthy volunteer. And there were several features that could be detected using Irisome, like for example, the epidermal thickness, so acanthosis, which is like much stronger in psoriasis patients, enlarged capillary loops, like right below the epidermis, and also distorted vasculature and increased blood volume in the dermis of the patients. So there are studies ongoing now for disease staging and also treatment monitoring for mainly inflammatory skin diseases. So this is basically where we are using this Raman laser and hopefully also improve treatment and monitoring of these skin diseases in the future. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Katja. Thank you very much, Torsten, for this really nice presentation. Katja, this is your first ever EPIC meeting, the first of many. Torsten told me that he's going to bring you along more often. The EPIC meetings are about cooperation, collaboration. But before I ask you the EPIC question, which is what can you do for them, what can they do for you, I'm going to go back to the start of the show today, which is Dr. Matteo. Because the first request that he had was about the needle, and he's going to work with Puppels River diagnostic on that, but he also wanted to measure the thickness of the scar. Dr. Matteo Tretti, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
So could you give us like a Santa Claus Christmas wish about the kind of thickness and resolution accuracy you would like to measure? And let's see if Katja and Torsten can help you.
A scar can be thick from 1 millimeter to several centimeters. So, I have an ultrasound device in my office, and I use the elastomeric or elastic, but to compress the skin with the ultrasound probe to try to understand how much elastic fibers are in. But I'm not really able, probably because I'm not the right operator for that, to calculate the thickness. But I think that it varies from a couple of millimeters, 1 millimeter, to at least 2 centimeters thickness.
Is that a nice challenge for iThera, Katja?
The technology I just saw is very interesting, but can we calculate the thickness in a thicker in psoriasis, for example, we know that we have more epithelium over there because we can see that clinically. What we do not know is the amount and the orientation of vessels. But in scar, I'm not so sure. So
yeah, so with the Irisome that I just introduced, the imaging depth is about maximum, I would say, 2 millimeters. But with the MSAT acuity, for example, the other device we have a lower resolution. So the Irisome provides resolution up to or down to 10 micrometer. But the acuity has about 140 micrometer resolution, but we can go down to 2 to 3 centimeters deep.
That's great.
But then, of course, you don't see these microvasculature that you see with Irisome, but you see bigger vessels and also more bulky tissue, like also collagen, lipids, whatever. So I'm not sure for, let's say smaller scars. I think Irisome would probably suitable if they are only 1 millimeter deep. And of course, you can also see the orientation of blood vessels always. So this is a huge advantage always in 3D. So you always get 3D images.
My question to you is, how large is the spot of this analysis? So the surface you can analyze, how large it is?
So for Irisome, the maximum field of view for the clinical device we have is 6 by 6 millimeters due to the MPE limits. So it's rather smaller, but it's also like it's really scanning in a raster. So it takes quite some time. So for 6 by 6, maybe 1 minute. So if you would make it larger, then of course it takes quite some time. And with the Acuity, you have a handheld probe, so you can, it's unlimited field of view.
Yeah, that could be a problem because, you know, can you imagine to treat a full face taking 1 minute only to calculate the thickness in a 6 by 6 millimeters? How long can be a procedure? So
Yeah.
that could be a limit.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to have it with this high resolution, then that's the one to go. The other one, you can have like a photo within a second, but then in lower resolution, but also, yeah, higher depth.
Okay.
There are things to discuss here. I want to bring to the floor Frank Ernst from NTS Optel from the beautiful country named the Netherlands. Frank, you posted something very interesting in the chat of Zoom. NTS Optel has needles for bringing light into the eyeball. Do you foresee here a collaboration or potential collaboration with any of the participants today on that?
Yeah, I think so. Because yeah, we have experience with some requests which at least look similar. So I think we should discuss somewhat more details about combining the technology of the ultrasound. I guess there may be even some other possibilities to detect this, and therefore I'd like to know a little bit more about the tissue properties. But yeah, I think that can be discussed. But I for sure do see some opportunities. The light we send into the eyeball is also quite a lot. So yeah, I think we can do this also with pulse laser and in that way bring the light into the tissue.
NTS Optel is one of the key companies you have in Europe as a system integrator. So, Katja, you're looking for partnership to the next R&D project to broaden the field of view. These are the people to go to. Frank, thank you very much. I go back to Katja. There is another question. This question is back from Gordon Mackenzie. Gordon, what's on your mind?
Sorry to pop up again, but years of working in applications. You've described the trade-off everyone has, resolution against depth. Came up earlier when we were talking about confocal versus OCT. I'm just wondering from a clinical point of view, and I'm not sure who here can answer this, is it clinically relevant to know about the microvasculature a couple of centimeters deep? Obviously on the surface, you may want to treat fine lines and everything else, but is it possible to target therapies that deep in the tissue where the microvasculature is going to matter, especially as just been noted that the surface coverage may be an issue? What are the practical trade-offs? Do we know?
So that's a very, very interesting question. I think, you know, in EPIC, you get a lot of experience, and the innovation manager of EPIC is Antonio Raspa. He worked in Quanta System for many years, and we had now the luck to get him as one of the EPIC staff. So he's in charge of the technical team. Antonio, do you have an answer perhaps on this? And also, would you like to comment on what we discussed so far in the potential collaborations with Matteo?
Yeah, I will say that here aesthetics and dermatology is a quite complex surgical procedure. It seems easy because people are thinking on easy job, also let's say jobs that looks easy like tattoo removal, but then there is a lot of diseases that should be treated, and the most critical point is that every portion of the skin on different persons is very different. So here is relying a lot on the competence and the experience of the surgeons. But what Photonics can give in this moment is also to help them to decide. As Matteo said, it's not correct that the system is taking the control of the power level and so on. But a diagnostic tool should give decision tools to the surgeon. then is upon the responsibility of the surgeon to manage the situation and to adopt his specific strategies. I have also, thinking about the depth of the scars, it's very fine to adopt optoacoustic technologies for this. I think that it's important also to note that in the surgeon hands, there is already, let's say, 40% or 60% of the tool, because he has already the laser for probing the skin. And they are also used to read a ultrasound image. Probably here we are really to make the best effort to put all this information together in a simple way that is easy to be used by the surgeon in a short time. He has to work on the patient in the moment. So it's very important also the time of to having this information.
We will come back to that later stage. Thank you very much for joining the meeting, Gordon. You are a key company when it comes to market intelligence. I want to work closer with you. But I want to go back to Katja. Because in the beginning I told you I will ask you the epic question. I let you time to think. This meeting is about cooperations, collaborations. We love bringing companies together. And the epic question, what can you do for them and what can they do for you?
Yeah, sure. We are always looking for collaboration. So we are also doing a lot of development for our systems. So it's not that we have a final ready to go system. So the Acuity underwent CE mark beginning of this year. But still for the Irisome, for example, we are in the process of doing that. So we are still finding the optimal components, let's say, for the system, trying to develop a handheld probe. I'm not an engineer, so I cannot tell you all the details, but let's say for detectors, of course, we have the Raman laser now, but for all kind of things that the system needs, we are constantly trying to improve. So all technical parts. And then, of course, we are always looking for people, mainly clinicians or preclinical researchers that are interested in trying out optoacoustic imaging and trying to get studies to run. We are supporting them also with IRB approvals or whatever, like all around the world, to really set up cool studies and move forward in the clinical and preclinical settings with these modalities.
Last week we heard that the Medica exhibition in Düsseldorf is going to be postponed. That's a bit sad, but you should know that we are preparing an online meeting on medical device manufacturing. We'll have many of the key companies in the sector. Katja, I want you there. Once again, Torsten, Katja, thank you very much for showing the successful cooperation that AMS Technologies and iThera are having. Keep going, because you are an example on how to work together from the component side all the way to building systems and deploying at the right markets. And we continue with the program and we go to one of my favorite companies in Epic. I cannot hide it. I love when people actually manipulate laser to print into applications, and we go to IRISIOME. We have nobody else than the CEO and founder of IRISIOME, Romaine Royon. Thank you very much for joining us this beautiful, beautiful afternoon. The floor and the attention of everyone goes to the ultra-fast lasers of IRISIOME. The floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jose. I hope this is working.
It's working great.
Great. Okay, great. So, hello everybody. So I'm Romaine Royon. I'm the CEO of IRISIOME, and I'll present our work and the philosophies that drove our development and the development of our product, the first product that we launched, which is Impulse. Okay, so if we look at the different technologies that the different devices or that exist in this market of aesthetic treatments, so these devices with laser, there are a lot of parameters that are involved. For example, the pulse duration from millisecond to sub-nanoseconds, also the wavelength and the repetition rate. But this one is driven mostly by the use, not by the efficiency. I mean that. When you use a Hertz laser, it's more to follow the movement of the move of your hand than that you use the repetition rate to increase the efficiency of your treatment. But all these performances are set by optical architecture. And the major drawbacks are basically the maintenance. They have no tunability, and most use thermal effect with joule level energy from millisecond to nanosecond. So there are a lot of side effects and a lot of downtime. Sorry, and there is no major evolution of this technology since 20 years. So, in this bunch of devices, how do you choose the correct one for your application? So, your light is used to act selectively on endogenous or chromophores, such as hemoglobin for the blood, melanin for example, pigmentary lesion or hair removal, and water for skin rejuvenation. But also you have to consider the depth, the light penetration depth of your laser. So if you want to act on the surface, the epidermis, so you have to choose short wavelength. But if you want to go deeper into the skin, you have to choose longer wavelengths. So several wavelengths are needed to adapt the treatment to the patient or to the treatment. But that's mainly what we thought on this application. But also we have to choose the pulse duration on the repetition rate of your laser, because if you look at the thermal relaxation time of your chromophore, such like tattoo pigment, melanosome, vessels, follicle, or late veins, so you have different diameter of the chromophore, and so the TRT of this chromophore are completely different. So there are a strong interest also to be able to tune the pulse duration of the frequency of your laser. So that's why at Irisome we develop a new technology. So this technology is based on a fiber laser, so with a classical MOPA system. So we all know the advantages of this technology. So it's reliable, it's compact. But at Irisome also we developed our own technology to generate pulses. So it's based on an electronically pulse generation, and we transfer these electronic pulses to the optical world with a diode or with electro-optical modulator. So we can generate ultra-short pulses as short as 10 picosecond. The advantage to generate electronical pulses is that you can scale this technology to other wavelengths. For example, right now we use ytterbium, but we also can use it for erbium, for thulium, for neodymium. So we have a bunch of wavelengths available for us, and we don't have to change everything in our laser. So, and as it is electronically generated, if we change the command, we can change the pulse duration, but also the repetition rate of the laser. And why to use this kind of pulse duration, which is completely different than the one used today, is that on every biological tissue, there is always a threshold. And if you look at the optical breakdown threshold versus the pulse duration, you can see that if the threshold decreases, photoablation efficiency increases. It means that with less energy, you can have a better results. And so you have to limit. You can limit the energy deposit into the tissue, and it will prevent unnecessary surrounding tissue heating or ablation. So what we do with our technology is that we make a burst of picosecond pulses. So the frequency of our laser is between megahertz or gigahertz repetition rate, and we can deliver average power of 30 watts over a spot size of 2 millimeters. And in that case, we do not use linear absorption. We use nonlinear absorption. And the technology is based on a cumulative photodistribution. It means that the interaction between the laser and the skin is made by each pulses that induces structural changes in the material, and this leads to an absorption enhancement. So after a given number of pulses, the photodistribution finally occurs. Here are some clinical results that we obtained with our first product, which deliver pulses of 10 picoseconds with an adaptable frequency with an adaptable repetition rate. And so we can get result on, for example, pigmentary lesion, such as tattoo removal, just like here. After a few sessions, we can almost remove everything. But also for lentigines, just like here, we can see that the pigmentary lesions are completely removed after one session, or also that keratosis, just like here. But it's also interesting for vascular lesions. So here on telangiectasis, on leg, here you can see that after one session, all these veins are removed. But the key thing of this application is that with our technology, there were no pain, and there were almost no downtime and no side effects. So what are the perspectives? So our challenge now is to extend the application with our technology, of course, and with this application to get not invasive treatment in order to get no side effect and no downtime. So for this, we targeted three characteristics. So for new tools, so one is to develop new imagery systems in order to target only the lesions that we want to act on. Also fluorescent, for example, to measure intensity and the evolution during the treatment, or also spectroscopy with Raman spectroscopy to choose the correct wavelength. And for us, the goal, of course, would be to adapt the parameter during the treatments. So that's what we wanted to show you.
And that's what you did show us. Thank you very much for that. There is a lot of room for cooperation here. Let's start with the epic question. What is the epic question, Elena?
As always, what you can do for them and what they can do for you.
May I give a question?
Yes, but let's start with the epic question first. What kind of room for cooperation do we have here? What can you do for the rest, and what can the rest do for you?
My question is regarding the spot size. I saw that you are creating a picoseconds pulse duration using a train of femtoseconds on a 2 millimeters. And I'm really interested in the 10 picoseconds pulse duration because it's considered the threshold to have only a photomechanical effect on targets and not having any kind of photothermal effect as for a longer pulse duration. So my question is, can you have a larger spot size on that instead of only 2 millimeters?
Of course, it's not a limitation. I mean, right now, the thing is, even if you get shorter pulses, the larger spot size you have, the more energy you have to deposit if you consider the fluence. I mean, if you have low fluences,
that's why. But larger the spot size, deeper is the penetration. So I'm thinking about for the scattering, you know. So I'm thinking about a tattoo. I'm a practical man, you know, and I'm thinking about my patients, and so I'm thinking about having a tattoo on the back of a man. Yep. So the tattoo cluster are really deep. And so if I use a large spot size, maybe I can reach them better. Right. So the question is exactly for that. So
for us, the correct answer is not to get larger spot size, because as I said, if you get larger, you have to get more energy to get the same fluence. But on the contrary, you have to get smaller spot size, but you have to use it with a scanner. That's more the development we are working on, because otherwise, I mean, at the beginning we have a 4 millimeter spot size, and it was practically the same thought that you have, but we saw that it was I mean, it seemed to be a good idea, but finally we have better results with the 2 millimeter spot size laser. So that's why we are going to get smaller spot size, but we have to
with a scanner.
Yeah, right.
That's great.
Okay, great. So let's give it another try and get back to the epic question. So what you can do for them and what they can do for you. What is the challenge you are still trying to solve in your beautiful technology?
So right now we have developed this technology, and we are technical guys and women. But now we have to challenge this device for the application, and that's why we are looking for, even if we started, but we are always looking for new people from biology, from the aesthetic world, also for the application, for the development of the tools, in order to understand how this application works. I mean, just like Antonio said, I mean, even if this application are quite common, and it can be quite fun to discuss about tattoo removal, because everybody see these people with tattoo. The tattoo removal phenomenon is quite complicated. I mean, right now we are working on the understanding at the cell level, and it's something very, very complicated. So we always are looking for new challenges, and also to get the right people to understand all this application. Because, for example, we are in a new market with a new device, with new parameters, laser parameters, and so we have to get all these people working together, and that to develop our system is what we've done. I mean, we talk with people from the electronical world. So now we want to talk with the clinical and biological world.
So that makes it clear what is your desire in terms of applying your machine. Is there something like a Christmas wish list for what you still would like to get from the supply chain?
Right now, it's more the end of this supply chain. I mean, we want to develop new tools, and as I'd say, for example, we want to develop a new product for a certain application, and we need to integrate some competence from imagery, for example, and to get and to add deep learning in order to get a new tool, and for example, to target only the lesion that we want to tag to act on stuff like that. So it's more people from other world than the photonics world.
Okay, we also have some questions on our YouTube channel.
Yes,
Jose.
you have questions in the YouTube channel. Hello, YouTubers of the world. We go to Saudi Arabia, Romaine. Saudi Arabia, from the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, they are wondering about the following. What is the power density generally used for tattoo removal and for veins? And also, is the power compromised while changing the wavelength of the light?
So basically, it's hard to respond to this question, because the power or the power density that you have to use for tattoo removal or veins is completely different, because it will depend on the quantity of ink of the deep where the ink is into the skin. So, but basically, it's something like it's kilowatts or gigawatts, in between kilowatts and gigawatts per square centimeter. And for veins, it's is less density. The other question, Jose, sorry.
Is the power compromised when you switch the wavelength?
Yes, of course. Of course, because as one of the first mechanism, it's absorption. For example, when you use for veins 532 nanometers, so you'll need less power, but as I show in one of my slide, is that you can treat on the surface of the skin. You cannot go deeper. So in that case, if you want to go deeper, you have to change the wavelengths. But in that case, you have to use more power or more energy than you have to do with at 532 nanometers.
Thank you, Dr. Subedi and you for that great question. I am curious, anybody wants to comment on the amount of power for tattoo removal? Let's go to our medical doctor in the room today. Matteo, what kind of power levels do you use for tattoo removal?
I completely agree on what Romaine said. That's why I was suggesting the needles. So, for example, if I want to remove the red color in a tattoo, I need the 532 nanometers. But unfortunately, I know that the penetration of 532 is limited. So that is a problem. And that's why I was suggesting needles. So imagine if with something, with a probe, with a way, you know, I do not know what, but we can arrive close to the target. If we can arrive close to the targets, we can emit a limited amount of energy, maybe using the best wavelength. So I think that the most important thing is the affinity, affinity wave for that particular target. I do not think there is problem to remove melanin. Melanin is very superficial. So all wavelength can affect melanin. But speaking about vessels, we know that the 532 has the highest affinity compared to the 1064. Unfortunately, sometimes we need 1064 because 532 is not going deeper. So imagine being able to arrive with the 532 extremely deep in the skin. We can use less energy and maybe we can have less adverse events.
Excellent.
So as the fractional idea changed the way by Rox Anderson and Dieter Meinstein changed the field, fractionating the way to emit energy, why not change the field, modifying where to deliver the energy?
Matteo, one important question I think is everybody's mind. If you are gonna get a tattoo of your boyfriend and girlfriend in your body, what kind of color should you avoid in order to for it to be easily removed?
I don't treat light colors, means pink, light yellow, light green. You know, I hate to treat tiger's image on because the orange color. I love the black tattoo because, you know, with the black we can use 1064. We have an enormous amount of energy, and with the 1064 we can go extremely deep.
Matteo, that's cool. If you are ever gonna get you're gonna get a boyfriend or girlfriend tattoo, use black and no light colors. And with that note, I think we should go to our next speaker. Let's go to Lasram Laser. Kornel, thank you very much for joining today. It's been so far a spectacular meeting, full of cooperations. What do you bring to the table? The floor and the attention of everyone goes to you.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you. So I'm here today because I would like to present you the Lasram Laser GmbH and the Lasram family in total. And without further ado, let's go to the company profile. So Lasram was founded by renowned Hungarian laser engineers in '91. So it's kind of an old company. The company's main activities include manufacturing and development of medical and industrial lasers and laser systems, and providing laser technology services. Since 2009, the Lasram company has a company in Germany as well. That's why I'm sitting right now. And the company takes care of sales and marketing of Lasram worldwide. The founders of Lasram originally started research and development of laser system at Tungsram, the world famous light bulb maker. Lasram is marketing and products under its own label, and as well as certain selected OEM private label corporations. Lasram sold more than 750 laser units worldwide in the past 25 years. So therefore you can see it's not that huge company, but we are kind of agile. Now, why CO2 lasers? So I think you all know this. There are countless advantages in clinical and ambulatory practice. For example, sterile, precise cuts, minimal edema, fast wound here, less bleeding, well-observing operating field, and shorter recovery time. In general, you can say that laser is laser operating is has the advantage that it coagulates the small blood vessels. Therefore, you don't have bleeding on the patient. Now to the technical specifications. So Lasram specialized on CO2 lasers, and which means 10,600 nanometers. These are the first two products of Lasram, the Opal 10 and 25 watt. It's an RF excited sealed off tube, where you can choose between 10 and 25 watt and continuously adjustable in 0.2 watt steps. There are 3 operating modes: the continuous TV mode, the single pulse, and the repeated pulse. The beam delivery occurs with the 7-joint spring balanced arm, in total 1.3 meter work radius. The cooling is with air, and you'll have a touch screen display to assess the user interface. Beside of that, you have 3 programmable, 5 freely programmable scanner parameters, and yeah, this is the first generation. The second generation we have here is the bigger brother, let's say. It's the 30 and 50 watt, which is the DC excited. Here you have the same operating mode, besides the fact that here you have the so-called super pulse mode, where the laser is able to put out a 3 to 4 times higher energy for a very short time. The cooling is with water, and you have an LCD display for the user interface. Right now, Lasram is developing and manufacturing a so-called new laser design. Here you can see the pictures. It will be available from next year on, where we improved the touch screen, and we modified the user interface to make it more friendly, to make it more user friendly. Beside of that, we will have day and night mode, as you can see in the picture. Yes. Now, where can you use the CO2 lasers in dermatology and plastic surgery? Well, as you can see, there's a bright variation in surgical interventions, but you also can handle fibroma, verruca, granuloma, and face skin resurfacing, treatment of scars, keloids, and acne, eyelid surgeries. Beside of that, you can use the CO2 lasers in gynecology and the ENT. Yes, application. This is the scanner accessoire we have. There are 11. So what is a scanner? The scanner is basically a system with 2 built-in mirrors moved by 2 motors, where you can not only have a laser dot from the laser beam, but you can have different kind of forms, as you can see below the picture. And this is used by fractional therapy, for example, with different handpieces, where you can treat the skin better with just the standard laser beam. As you can see on the right corner, in the right bottom corner, we have different patterns which you can use, where the coverage can be adjusted between 20 and 80%. This is after our experience, this is probably the best way to treat burned wounds, for example. Yes, and this was my kind of short presentation from Lasram. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for a great presentation. It is so great to have all the different types of lasers. I don't know if you noticed, Matteo, already. We talk about diodes, we talk about picosecond. We also have others here in the room. So allow me to also introduce you a couple of friends. We have a really interesting point from First Light Lamps. Ian, what's on your mind so far?
So the point I just made was it seems that people are tending to focus predominantly on diode-based systems and fiber systems, which I do understand, and we've just been talking about CO2 systems, but as a manufacturer of flash lamps for the medical and aesthetic industry, where, you know, I've been in the industry 10 years and people are saying that flash lamps are going to go away and not be used anymore, they are still a very highly versatile component part of lasers. And people seem to be forgetting the versatility. I noticed one of the questions, or one of the points that somebody raised, is lamps vs diodes. I think the issue is efficiency. Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, I think that is one of the issues. But the versatility of the lamp, with its broad spectral output from, you know, down in the UV all the way up into the infrared, that is very easy to integrate into systems and use. Now, as manufacturers of systems, one of the things we have to also be you know, conscious of is usability, and also you know, maintaining our costs and maintaining our revenues. Now, with a flash lamp based system, you know, okay, I'm a little bit biased because I'm trying to sell lamps. You know, it's about maintenance as well, and actually continuing revenues, where you may have a very efficient system, you may have a very good you know, centered product, but where's your continued revenue streams going to come from as well? You know, so I think lamps have still got a very, very strong position for all of us in the photonics industry, and also the medical and aesthetic markets. People say there's been no development in you know, or lamp-based systems. Quite interestingly, you showed Cynosure, you showed Alma, you showed Decca. All of those systems have been modified and upgraded over the last few years in various different ways. And one of the ways that have been updated and upgraded is this old technology lamps, improved cathode designs to increase lifetime, increase efficiencies. So, you know, I would challenge the point that, you know, these systems have not been updated. They have, and that is why they still sell very strongly today.
Of course, you're a system integrator, you say it very well, so you're directly offering solutions to OEMs, and you know that first lamps are here to stay for many, many years for many other applications. Medical lighting is actually growing, and I think we should have a separate meeting only on medical lighting. But I want to
This isn't medical lighting. Sorry, I disagree with what you said. This is flash lamps to pump lasers. Medical lighting is something different again.
Thank you for the correction. But I want to go to the end user. I want to go to Matteo, to medical doctor, because we have discussed the very different types of lasers. We have talked about nanosecond and picosecond lasers. Do you have some views on that point about the pulse demands from the user side?
I think that it depends on the target we have to affect. So, you know, for some targets we need an extremely short pulse duration. I would love to have femtoseconds laser in my hands to treat pigment, exogenous or endogenous, but I also need long pulse duration to treat big targets like big vessels. So I need all of them. Just a small consideration about the CO2. I really love to use ultra pulse, extremely short pulse duration, because it was demonstrated at the Utrecht University that comparing the same energy on the same spot size, the very short pulse duration, also published by Rox Sanderson in 1988, at the same energy, same spot size, shorter is the pulse duration, deeper is the penetration, and more clean is the channel of ablation. So if we put on the balance a CW, we have a dirty channel. We have a lot of heat generated at the dermoepidermical junction. That is exactly where we do not want to have heat. While if we use a very short pulse duration, we can, same spot size, going deeper, and we can have a very clean channel of ablation.
Thank you very much for that comment. We have every particular laser from amplitude that is here with Francois talking about femtoseconds, all the way to the CO2 laser that were just presented by Lasram. I'm gonna go back to you, Go back to Lasram laser. This is a cooperation meeting, so you have to answer, of course, the epic question. What kind of cooperations would you like to start after the meeting? What can you do for them? What can they do for you?
Well, what we can do, we can provide you with stable and well-fashioned CO2 laser for an extremely good price. And due to the fact that we are a small company, we are always up for some improvements, enhancements, and suggestions and cooperation.
Fantastic. Let's try to enable that. Let's try to start that after the meeting. We have the entire supply chain. Are there any questions before we move to the next speaker? 5, 4, 3, 2. I love doing that. Lisa Laser, Samir, what's on your mind? No, I have so much fun in the epic meeting. Samir, I'll mute you so we can hear you. Yes, there you go. I think you are trying to unmute yourself while my staff is trying to unmute yourself. So at the end, we are having a mess. So only Samir unmutes himself. Yes, we're in business. It is so cool.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I have a question to Lasram. Do you think about fiber coupling your system, or do you want to go on to work with the arm you showed us?
Yes, this is a very good question. Thank you for asking that. And indeed, we are developing the fiber solution onto our CO2 lasers next year. But as I showed in my presentation, we focused on giving our lasers a new look. Once this is done, I assume in the next 3 months, it's over. Therefore, we will start development of fiber solution next year. And it should take around 3 to 5 months.
Okay. If you need any assistance about the fibers and so on, feel free to reach out.
Matteo, Thomas from Jenoptik, everyone listen to the next presentation because you are going to love it. We are going to go to Rotterdam. We're going to go to one of the companies making a big difference in collaborating with EPIC members and developing new products to the market. Gerwin, Puppels, thank you very much for being an example on innovation with EPIC members. The floor and the attention goes to Riverdy Diagnostics, goes to you.
Thank you very much, Jose. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, great. So what Riverdy is doing is actually using Raman spectroscopy for various types of tissue analysis. One of our key areas is skin analysis. So instead of burning the skin, we try learning about the skin. And I hope I have some friends left now in the audience.
We have everyone. Nobody would live without hearing and seeing your slides. So could you share something with us? Yes.
Yes. So what you see here are a few pictures of an in vivo skin analyzer based on Raman spectroscopy. This is the whole module. You see a table here on which you put the skin that you want to measure on. You see a little eye here through which a microscope objective peeks up. This microscope objective is custom designed. It focuses laser light in the skin, low power laser light, and it collects Raman signal of the skin from exactly the point where you focus. It's a confocal system. And then by moving the objective, you can move the focus deeper and deeper into the skin. And based on the Raman spectra that you measure, you obtain information about the molecular concentrations of various species in the skin. That can be amino acids, proteins, lipids, water, sweat constituents, etc. You see an example here, an arm on the table, and on the picture to the picture here, you see, for instance, a water concentration profile going from the skin surface into the skin. So we can learn about intrinsic skin constituents. We can also learn how something that you put on the skin penetrates into the skin. And a unique feature of our technology is that we can do this quantitatively. So you know exactly how much of a product that you put on the skin penetrates into the skin, goes through the skin, and become systemically available. So this is of interest to personal care companies, to pharmaceutical companies more and more, and also to academic groups. And you see that we, as a small company, we spread ourselves thin. So we deliver these systems all over the world. There are about 50 systems in the field right now. They're being used for skin typing, to look at age-related effects, seasonal effects, various skin conditions. And as I said, also look at what happens to stuff that you put on the skin. How does it penetrate and permeate? And sometimes how is it metabolized? So this is a technology we've been developing over 20 years now. And there's always further development where I see, and we've learned a lot about the skin and what you can do with Raman spectroscopy and what you can learn using Raman spectroscopy. That also opens the possibility to start developing very dedicated diagnostic devices. The device that we have now is more a research type device. It does the best of everything. It can be used for all kinds of different questions. But you can also turn this around and say, okay, if I have a specific question, I only need a limited amount of spectral information. And this of course, opens the door to device simplification, so miniaturization, cost reduction. And we have in various stages of development, we have devices to stratify patients of atopic dermatitis, atopic eczema, which affects a large portion of the general population, but which is basically, I think, a set of conditions which sort of look like the same, but do not all have the same cause. So it's important that you can tell these apart for management of the disease. Skin hydration may tell you something about the hydration status of people. People can become dehydrated or overhydrated. That might lead to life-endangering situations. So a simple device to monitor this would be very welcome. You can look at skin aging, a test, because it might tell you something about the aging of the body in general. So we can go on and on. So there are lots, and we're always looking for collaborations to help us develop this kind of applications, and especially when it comes to the miniaturization and the cost reduction. Think about the expensive components that we use in our systems, like the lasers, the detectors. Due to the reduced requirements that we have, there might be much more economical solutions for this. But we are not the experts on that, so we need some help there. Another very interesting opportunity is to combine our Gen 2 skin composition and analyzer which gives a lot of chemical molecular information, to combine this with imaging modalities such as OCT or acoustic imaging or confocal video microscopy, etc., so that our customers can also see a little bit of the structure and perhaps aim for specific structures in the skin. What can River D deliver to you? We by now have a lot of expertise in optical designs for skin applications. We design our own microscope objectives because nothing that we could buy commercially really fit the bill. Inside our instruments is what we refer to as a high-performance Raman module, which can also easily be used in other applications. So the only thing you would need to add to this is the actual measurement interface. And finally, everybody here in the room is treating skin or treating tissue. We can also perhaps show you where to treat, as one of my remarks earlier in this session. And we can also look at what treatment actually does to the tissue. Let's get information about that from our Raman spectra. So with this, I sort of jumped the gun, and I hopefully answered what can we do for you and what can you do for us question beforehand. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gerwin. Thank you for also highlighting this what you can do for others and what you're looking for. Though I will still interrogate you a little bit on that part, though, because it's I understood that you're looking for some advanced or new components for your system with miniaturization and cost reduction. But if you put a little bit more on a table, what parameters are you looking for in let's say in a light source, for instance, or in other components that you're interested in? Maybe we can find something here.
Yeah. So basically the type of lasers that we now use are reasonably narrow bands, so 0.1 nanometer or less. They are pretty stable in power output and especially stable in wavelength output, because you can imagine if the laser wavelength shifts, our Raman spectra shift as well. So, but not for all the applications we need all this. So for some applications, we could work with lasers that have perhaps a 1 nanometer bandwidth that are not so stable, or that can easily be stabilized, but maybe nobody has thought about it yet who has these lasers. So just as an example, we can use I've looked, for instance, at the specs of, then I'm talking about detectors. I've looked at the specs of the cameras that are used in smartphones right now. Actually, they're pretty good. So anybody who has any experience with that type of detectors, I'd like to know.
Oh, if we have somebody with this kind of experience in the room, please speak up now. Otherwise, we also will move to the next question. We have a few more in the room. There is a question from Sergey from Astrom. Would you like to ask your question?
Well, thank you for your talk. I mean, I'm impressed, really. I've spent some time developing OCT in the past. I mean, what could be a benefit combining your system with OCT?
Mm-hmm. For instance, for OCT, it simply adds, so you get structural information. You see structures in the skin. If we talk about skin, you can make out skin layers. You can make out skin structures like glands or hair follicles, whatever. So what would be nice there is if you can add the molecular specificity, which is lacking from an OCT's image, of course. And so our customers, they sometimes ask about this, like, okay, I would like to target specifically this and this. For that, I need some imaging technique to combine it with.
Okay.
And I could imagine that the other way around, it's also interesting. So. Yeah.
We've had thoughts about combining OCT with ultrasound, but that's again about how deep you can go, but not about the contents. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And there is more questions, something similar to what we already heard before from Gordon McKinsey. Gordon, would you like to ask your first question you posted to Gerwin?
Thank you. Sorry, I keep popping up. Just a practical question, because I know these are things that have been a challenge in Romaine for a long time. How long does the measurement take, and how sensitive are your measurements to the environmental? Does it need to be in a darkened room? Does it need a long integration time? I'm just trying to get a handle on the practicality, because Romaine has had so much promise for quite some time.
Yes, thank you for the question. So we've designed the system in such a way that you put the skin on the measurement window, and by that you can do it. It's blocked against the environmental light, so you can just do it in a lightened room. And the measurements take anywhere from less than a second to a few seconds per measurement point of a profile. So if you take a whole profile, it could take half a minute, perhaps a minute.
Fantastic. Do you find surface contaminants are a problem, or are you getting around that with the confocal approach? I know that cosmetics and sun cream and things like that have stymied measurements in research situations I've been involved in. Is that something that is an issue, or is that just
it's not
something.
an issue. It's not an issue. It's actually an application. Companies want to show that the sunscreen stays on the skin surface. So that's one of the things that you can do. Yeah.
Fair point. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no more immediate questions right now, then we will be moving to our final speaker of this meeting. We will be talking about the very heart of energy-based treatments, and that we will hear from Sergey from Lasram. Please, the attention of everyone is yours.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Give me a sec. Okay, screen share.
Sure. We will hear more about the lasers which are behind this energy-based treatment devices. And we heard a lot today that there are different lasers for different applications. And there are so many different options. It's very difficult to choose the right one. But when you need a good one, then you will know also where to come. And maybe we will also later on we'll be able to discuss more how we can combine the lasers for the treatment for hair removal, tattoo removal, and other measurements which are required beforehand. So if Sergey is ready with his presentation. Okay.
I think while he's getting ready, Lasram laser from. Let me go back to Kornel. Kornel, are you there? I have a question for you. So in the YouTube channel, we have many companies. And for Kornel, there is a question from a company that I love, which is called Lumix, and they made fantastic laser diodes for medical. My friend Beth has the following question. How do you control the unwanted side effects from a CO2 laser, such as redness, swelling, changes in the skin color? Kornel?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry.
So did you get the question from Lumix? Actually, the CEO of Lumix, Niels, is here. Niels is a good friend of mine as well. Thank you for joining, Niels. He's waving. So did you get the question, or shall I repeat it, Kornel?
Please repeat it.
So how do you control the unwanted side effects from a CO2 laser, such as redness, swelling, or changes in the skin color?
Well, usually the doctors recommend a cream against dryness for the patients, but we didn't get any complaints about these kind of side effects.
Fantastic. Actually, I would say now that we are almost at the end of the meeting, one company that is making a big difference on the laser diode manufacturing for dermatology is actually Lumix. And I have the CEO of the company here, Niels. Niels, what is, I know the company has been very successful on the medical market in the last years, Lumix. What is your preferred future? What kind of cooperations, what kind of companies would you like to work with to go into that dream of growing Lumix bigger than it actually is now? I think we have a problem with the sound of Lumix. We make this show live, and I love live, but live has problems, and we had that now. I'm gonna get my staff to contact Niels to make sure we can hear him. Elena, how is the last presentation? Are we ready to show?
No, we are not. We have a little bit more difficulties on technical side than expected.
That's not a problem, because I also want to go to Frank. I want to go to NTS Optel, not only to show them my Mac, but also to ask them a question. We have seen here today many different companies who are integrating laser diodes for different applications, and many of them are talking about field of view. They are talking about a field of view, and I know NTS Optel is very active on actually bringing optical design and optical integration for many markets, from 3D sensing all the way to actually detection of face IDs. How do you see your position in this dermatology market?
Actually, we have a long history already of developing together with medical companies and bring it to products. So we have quite some products. We do basically the whole trajectory from development to say life cycle management and everything in between. So, for instance, for the needle with the light, we make products up to I think 900 pieces per year. So yeah, for sure. Okay, to that we have actually quite some. I think over 20-30 projects done in the medical and life science market. So for sure interested in getting into contact with any persons into this in this area and having questions for that. For instance, also for cost downs, like Gerwin just asked. So I think that are also typically things we can do. So we do not only do the developments, but we can also help in cost down, easier production, cheaper production. NTS is worldwide. We are in Shanghai, we are in Singapore, so also we can do some production there if needed. But of course, we can also do it here in the Netherlands for sure. We have a company in Czechia, so we can also do it there. It really depends on the customer.
Fantastic, Frank. We want to make a lot of introduction. If you're looking for CMOS sensors or CMOS imaging, you have to go to Caleste. Jan is there. If you're looking for any kind of component systems, we have lots of laser components. I'm going to present the supply chain at the end. Stay tuned because at the end, I'm going to present the supply chain of the companies who have been in this meeting. But Elena, do we have the last presenter ready?
Oh, yes. We have one of very important companies from the supply chain back on stage. So
hope so, yeah.
Okay.
Is it online?
3, 2, 1. Yes, it is. And now we only make it in a full screen view. And there we go. The floor and the attention of everyone in the room and YouTube is yours.
Well, hi, everyone. Thank you for giving this chance. I enjoyed the talks, all the previous talks. My name is Sergey Tsarev. I work for Astrum. We are a supplier and developer of OEM laser systems exactly for aesthetic and medical and dermatology applications. In today's talk, I would like to touch upon several applications. It's hair removal, rejuvenation, vessel treatment, and a little bit about gynecological application, and about our systems, our OEM systems that are used for those applications. Just a couple of words about the company. We are actually a group of companies. I represent Lithuania. This is more about distribution, liaison, a little bit of assembly. We also have a facility in Russia for R&D. And we have just completed a brand new facility in Czech Republic near Prague. A very nice place to go to. Everyone is welcome as soon as Corona is down. First thing I'd like to talk about hair removal. In terms of systems used for that application, there is usually a standard design. And it's a very popular application. I think #1 in terms of how many systems are used in the world. The standard design is usually you take a handpiece, you integrate a laser source inside. It's a diode laser, usually 808 or 760 or 1060, not a matter of wavelengths, and it works pretty well. But there are advantages and disadvantages. If you're looking for more power, you have to integrate more laser into it, and then the handpiece becomes bulky. It overheats from time to time, and operators do not like to hold it for a long time and stop and wait while it comes down with the temperature. What we tried to do, we designed an alternative for that. We have offered a modular design, a modular OEM design. So what we did, we placed the laser source inside the console. So the handpiece does not depend then on the weight. It will not become bulky. You just can add up as much energy as you want. So this is how it looks in cross section, and then you integrate modulus. Another advantage is that you can actually integrate as many wavelengths as you can, and you're not limited, well, limited, but not so much in power. So you can integrate 808, 760, 1060, even more. And then when working with the patient, you can actually combine and switch from one wavelength to another during one procedure, or you can give a simultaneous pulse, you know, all wavelengths, which is kind of trend for now. So, you know, we try to come up with a more flexible design for end users, for clinics, for operators. Next application that I would like to speak about is rejuvenation, and it's also a very much standard procedure. You use a standard nanosecond laser for that. Usually it's 1064 as more or less most popular or most simple thing to do. Well, in our case, we offer a complete semiconductor design. So it's not a flash lamp driven, it's a semiconductor design. It can go up to 1.7 joule per pulse, per nanosecond pulse. That's about 10 nanoseconds. Again, what we try to do and approach our customers with the OEM solution to give it as much flexibility as you can. Usually when you do rejuvenation, you use a nanosecond machine, or they call it a Q-switch machine. But if you need a longer pulsing, then you will have to use another machine, which is called a long pulsed machine. The same wavelengths, but it's a different machine. What we tried to do is that we implemented several operational modes into a single design, which so the machine can generate, or the OEM model can generate nanosecond mode, microsecond mode, and millisecond mode. So you can switch between them. And the feedback that we're having in that a clinical dermatologist, he can be more inventive about treatment guidelines. So he can switch between different modes. I mean, if you go for nanosecond, you treat a little bit deeper with the millisecond, you know, more to surface or vice versa. Another OEM solution that we have been recently approaching to is so-called vaginal rejuvenation. This is a very, very sensitive, gentle, and tricky at the same time operation or treatment. Though it has been on, you know, on the market as a solution for a while. We have had presentations here for CO2 laser suppliers. So CO2 laser has been used in this many years before. Then there is Erbium YAG as a recently comparatively new application. But CO2 and Erbium YAG tend to be, well, Erbium YAG not exactly ablative, but they tend to be ablative, especially CO2. I mean, much depends on a doctor who would use it. Much depend on the which exact laser they would use. But there is a general understanding that CO2 is more. A doctor has to be more precise or more careful, let's say. What we have tried to advocate for last couple of years is a new technology for this. It is based on Nd:YAG or 1064, which we have seen very good clinical results. It's absolutely non-invasive procedure, no pain, no anesthesia. You know, a patient comes in and comes out, say in 30 minutes. It's just a lunchtime procedure. So as a new alternative technology, we advocate Nd:YAG, and it looks like it is working well. Apart from this, we offer OEM solutions for vessel removal. We offer 583 and 532 at about 5 joules. It is though a Q-switch technology, so you generate a burst of pulses. So this is to give an idea which applications we offer in our OEM solutions for, and what are they different from other suppliers. I know I will have a question from Jose or Elena about why what EPIC members can do for us, and I guess what I'm looking for is for help with laser chip packaging. I've always looked also for high power mirrors, or high threshold damage threshold mirrors, because apparently we work with pretty much energy, and the quality of mirror coating is very of an issue. I'm also looking for medical laser consulting in terms of different regulations worldwide. What my product is meant for is, of course, for medical and aesthetic system integrators that I know are in the room, and I hope this could be of interest. And also we have supplied to research institutions because we do a lot of custom design. I guess this is it.
Thank you
Perfect.
very
Thank
much
you
for a
very
great
much.
presentation. Thank you for actually summarizing like it was meant to be, this fantastic meeting. It was great to have these cooperations. You answered already the EPIC questions. So what I would like to ask now, we have a few companies that are present in the room. What would be, after these 2 hours, what would be the kind of company that you would dream to have a nice cooperation with everything you have heard, Sergey?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm looking at Quanta System. I think this is the guy I've been after for a couple of years. Yeah. So Quanta System looks like a perfect fit for me. I know Lisa would be great to talk to. Absolutely.
You know what is the beauty of these kind of meetings? That at 5 o'clock, the YouTube will actually close in a few minutes when I say my goodbyes. But most important, we are going to stay for one-to-one meetings. So all of you who actually book one-to-one meetings, Suzette is going to take charge and is going to make sure we make separate rooms for you to meet with your potential customer partners, friends, and of course suppliers. It's going to be a great part of the meeting. You know, Sergey, it was great. I really love to have all the different companies present in the room. For me, it is just truly epic to have everyone in the supply chain on this. I would like to, first of all, we corrected a couple of things in the slide, so it is now live, and we position, for example, First Light is a company that makes lamps for laser pumping, and of course make photonic components. Every company that registered for this meeting is present in this slide. We will share with everyone. We'll put it in YouTube, we'll put it in LinkedIn. If anybody is not happy with the position, we put them in the supply chain. Our job is to know every company, so please give us a feedback and make our life better. Once again, in 2 hours of your time, we talk to every company within the supply chain, from all the way to from the end user all the way to the companies who are making a big difference in the market, like, for example, Riverdi. It was great to know, of course, about the 2 market demands from Matteo. He's talking about accurate measurement of the scar thickness, and he's dreaming, wishing a multi-needle, multi-wavelength system. And I think that's something that we want to help you with. We talk a lot about tattoo removal. It looks like it's like the biggest market now, and I think everybody's like regretting tattoos they put in the past. It was nice to hear about this. Avoid the black. Sorry, use the black if you want the tattoo to remove. Avoid it if you want it to stay forever. And light colors are the hardest to remove. Of course, this all goes to the laser diode wavelength that we are targeting. And the trends, for me, I want to summarize 3. It was great to see the pulse tuning of Irisome and how they are targeting the skin market. The presentation from Astrum about the nanosecond laser that combine the 2 wavelengths more demanded by Matteo, of course, not only 532 nanometers, but also 1064 nanometer. And of course, the control skin penetration, which is something that Riverdi is solving with their system. And I think here he was really one of the most innovative companies that we had at the meeting. And the future is very bright for a company like Riverdi Diagnostics. I would like to remind everyone that I love this kind of online meetings. I think we have been quite successful in bringing anybody who has something to present at our events to be able to share. Is there any final comment or suggestion that you would like to comment before the end of the meeting? Yes, I have Sergey with a hand up. Yes, please unmute yourself. Yes.
I would say I'm sorry. I thought I was saying bye-bye. What was the question? Can you say it again?
Yes, any kind of final thoughts that you have after the meeting, any kind of final words of wisdom as a final remark.
Yeah, I every time I come I approach a webinar or online meeting like that, it seems to be that you know more or less what people will be talking about, but every time something new comes in and every time something interesting comes in, yeah, absolutely, I enjoy it.
I really enjoy as well talking to all of you and talking to everybody who has something to collaborate. I want everyone to be able to continue giving us the feedback. And most important, what I do want, what is all about is to collaborate. So I want everyone to remember that EPIC is here for you. EPIC is here to help you, that at the end of the day, it is all about cooperation. It is all about sharing everybody's feedback, everybody's feeling. Do not forget that it's all about the follow-up. So if you want to get in touch with any of the participants today, all you have to do is send me an email, jose.pozo@epic-asoc.com, and I will introduce you to the companies that you want to interact with. This also, of course, goes to the people who followed this meeting in YouTube. It was a fantastic experience to have the YouTubers asking questions. If you want to get in touch with anybody at Epic, here's his email address. We love connecting companies. We love enabling future. We love, of course, keep connecting everybody in the industry. Anything that we can do for you, we will do it. Anything that you can do for us is being at our meetings and continuing your feedback. Until the next time, goodbye.